If you're interested in partnering with Magical Storybook English Nanny Bedtime Stories or wanting to know more about sponsorship opportunities, then visit our website www.magical-storybook.com. You can also download free read-along books to accompany our fairy tales. Welcome to Magical Storybook English Nanny Bedtime Stories, a collection of children's stories from around the world. The Matsuyama Mirror. Hundreds of years ago, in a quiet part of Japan called Matsuyama, lived a man and his wife. They had a young daughter who they loved with all their hearts. One day there was much excitement in the house as the man had been summoned to the capital city of Kyoto on business. It was too far for the mother and her baby to go, so he set out alone, promising to bring them back some exciting presents. While he was away, his wife set to work, making winter clothes for the three of them on a spinning wheel. She had never been further from home than to the next village, and she could not help being a little frightened at the thought of her husband going on such a long journey. But she felt a little proud too, for he was the first man among their neighbours who had been to the great city where the emperor lived and where there were a great many beautiful and curious things to be seen. The woman and her daughter were overjoyed when the man finally returned home, and the little girl clapped her hands with delight when she saw all the pretty things that he had bought for her. He had many stories to tell of the wonderful things that he'd seen on the journey and in the city itself. "I have bought a very pretty gift for you," he said to his wife. "It is called a mirror." He handed her the wooden box, and when she opened it, she found a round piece of metal. One side was like a white frosted silver and decorated with raised figures of birds and flowers, and the other side was as bright as the clearest crystal. "Look," he said to his wife, "and tell me what you see inside." The woman looked into it to see that from its depths a happy, smiling face with bright eyes was looking at her. "What do you see?" asked the man, pleased that he was able to share something new with his wife. "I see a pretty woman looking at me, and she moves her lips as if she was speaking. Dear me, how odd! She has on a blue dress, just like mine." "Silly thing," he laughed. "It is your own face that you see. Everyone in the city has a mirror." The wife was charmed with her present. It was the first time that she'd ever seen a clear reflection of her face, and for the next few days she couldn't stop looking into it. She soon considered such a wonderful thing far too precious for everyday use, and so she shut it up in its box again and stored it carefully among her most valued treasures. Years passed by, and the husband and wife remained content with all they had. Their daughter brought them the greatest joy, and she grew up to become the image of her mother. She was so dutiful and affectionate that everybody loved her. Mindful of the effect that the mirror had had on her own vanity, the woman kept it hidden away from her daughter, worried that the use of it might breed a spirit of pride in her little girl. So her daughter grew up as simply as her mother had, and knew nothing of her good looks or of the mirror that would have reflected them. A few years later, a terrible misfortune came upon this happy family. The good, kind mother fell sick. Although her daughter cared for her night and day, her health grew worse. She was full of sorrow, knowing that she was soon going to leave her husband and child behind. She called her daughter to her and handed her the mirror, saying, "My darling child, you know that I am very sick. Soon I will die and leave you and your dear father alone. When I'm gone, promise me that you will look into this mirror every night and every morning, and there you will see me watching over you." With tears in her eyes, the child took the mirror and promised. A short time after, the mother died. The daughter never forgot her mother's last request, and each morning and evening she took the mirror from its hiding place and looked into it. There she saw the bright and smiling vision of her lost mother, not pale and sickly as in her last days, but the beautiful young mother of long ago. At night, the daughter would tell the reflection about her day, and in the morning she would ask her for encouragement in whatever the day may bring to her. So day by day she lived in her mother's sight, still striving to please her, as she had done in her lifetime. And she was always careful to avoid whatever might pain or grieve her. Her greatest joy was to be able to look into the mirror and say, "Mother, I have been today what you would have me be." Seeing his daughter look into the mirror each day and talk to it confused her father, and he eventually asked her the reason for her strange behaviour. "Father," she said, "I look into the mirror every day to see my dear mother and to talk with her." Then she told her father of her mother's dying wish and how she had never failed to fulfill it. Touched by so much simplicity and such faithful, loving devotion to her mother, her father shed tears of pity and affection. He could not find it in his heart to tell the child that the image that she saw in the mirror was her own sweet face. But his daughter was not mistaken, for by being as kind as her mother and by behaving as she did, her face was growing to look exactly like hers. And when she looked in the mirror, it was indeed her mother's face that was looking back.